Here are the solutions for factoring practice quiz number 2, challenge edition. Alright, so number 1, we're going to factor out the greatest common factor to begin, and we'll look at the numbers first. Alright, the factors of 10 include 10 times 1, 10 and 1. Factors of 20 are 10 times 2, and then 50 are 10 times 5. So there are other factors here, but 10 happens to be the biggest one to have in common. So that means that all of these are divisible by 10. So that's where we can begin, dividing all of these by 10. Alright? Now taking a look at the variables, we have both x and y's for all of these. Alright, we have x to the first, y to the first, x to the 3, y to the 7, x squared, y squared. And so the lowest one out of all of these happens to be x to the first for x, and the lowest one for the y's happens to be y to the first. That means that at most I can pull out x out of all of these and y out of all of these. So my greatest common factor is 10xy. Now if I place that on the outside and then simplify it term by term, 10 divided by 10 is just equal to 1, and then the x's are going to end up canceling, the y's are going to end up canceling, so that just leaves 1 for the first term, minus 20 divided by 10 is equal to 2, and now here is where I can subtract the exponents. So for the x's, 3 minus 1 is x to the 2, and for the y, 7 minus 1 is y to the 6th. So that's 2x squared and y6 for the second term, negative. And for my last term, 50 divided by 10 is equal to 5, and then I'll end up subtracting the exponents for the variables. 2 minus 1 for x, this is x to the first, and y 2 minus 1, this is y to the first. Alright, and that gives me my answer. So 10xy on the outside, and then 1 minus 2x squared y6 plus 5xy. Alright, number 2. Let's set up our signs. So we have alternating signs this time around. C is negative, B is positive. So A plus, A minus. And in this scenario here, C is negative and B is positive. That means that the positive factor is going to be bigger than the negative one. Factors of 4 include 4 times 1 and 2 times 2. In order to subtract 2, 3, we need to make one of these factors equal to a negative, and out of these two scenarios, this is going to be the one that subtracts 2, 3. If we make 4 positive and make the 1 negative, then that is equal to positive 3. Check. Alright, so A plus 4 times A minus 1 will be my answer. Number 3. So we'll begin by listing out the factors of these numbers to see if we can find the greatest common factor. So 20, 10 times 2, 50, 5 times 10, 20 again, 10 times 2. So out of all these, the greatest common factor is 10. Alright, so that's where I'll begin. Divide out 10 from all of these. And that's going to give me 10 on the outside. 20 divided by 10 is 2x squared minus 50 divided by 10 is 5x. 20 divided by 10 is 2. And I'm just looking now at the inside. So to create an empty set of two binomials. And so you notice that a is greater than 1. Okay, so we need to list out the factors of a, which are only 2 times 1. So the only possibility here we have is 2x and 1x. We can also take care of our signs here. C is a positive number, b is a negative number. That means that we have a sum of two negative factors, so 2x minus and x minus is my scenario. Now to finish this off, we need to look at the other factors of 2, which are just 2 and 1. But when we were looking at the factors of c, they need to I switch placements, so 2 and 1 and 1 and 2. And now we just need to strategically place them so that they add up to -5 in some way. So if you try out the first scenario, all right, 2x minus and then x minus 1. The outsides are negative 2x times -1 is just minus 2x minus 2x from the inside, and that is equal to -4x. So that's not going to work. Alright, but if we do change placement on these two and make this one 1 and this one 2, then the outsides are now multiplied to -4x plus the insides of minus 1x, and those two add up to -5x. And that's going to be my correct combination. With a 10 on the outside, 2x minus 1 times x minus 2. Alright, number 4. We have -16x squared plus 8x plus 35. And the first thing I'm going to do is divide out the negative because I want to have a positive a term. So all these divided by -1. And that's just going to change the sign on all these. So on the outside I have -1 and have 16x squared minus 8x minus 35. And we have the worst possible scenario of -35, where that's going to increase and double up your possibilities. But let's just take it one step at a time. And let's do the factors of 16. So for the factors of 16, we have 16 times 1 and 4 and 4. And then just looking ahead here, my factors of 16 and 1, if I multiply any of those factors, maybe that's going to be way too big. Alright, if I multiply with any of the c factors, let's list out the factors of c so we can see what we are working with. So for c we have -35, and we'll just list out 4 scenarios here where we have -35 times 1 and then -1 times 35. And if they come close, we'll use switch the signs here. -5 times 7 and -7 times 5. Okay, is looking at the possibilities that my answer could be. We could have 16x and 1x here with any combination of these factors, right? However, my middle term is -8, which is not too big. So I'm probably not going to be looking at the big numbers, right? Anything with the 35 will probably end up being too big. So I can eliminate these three right away, okay? Even 16 and 5 also way too big, because my middle term is 1 times that factor on the left, and none of them will add up to the middle number of negative 8x. Alright, so right away I could see that the factors of 16 and 1 are probably not going to be my solution without even checking them. Just looking ahead with the possibilities that they may end up being too big. Okay, so now if I take a look at the next set of factors for A, right, 4 and 4. Alright, so these are similar, they're the same in size, so that means that if I multiply one number, right, with that, then I can subtract some of the same magnitude because it's a multiple of 4. As long as they're close, my factors are close to each other, that means that the difference is not going to be too great. And just looking at the factors here for 35 and 35, in both cases, probably going to end up being too big. So I can eliminate those. And now I'm just left with two possibilities after all of that. And why don't we test them out to see what we get. So if we have, let's place a negative 5 here and the 7 here, we end up with 4x times a positive 7, which is 28x. And then the insides, negative 5 times 4x is minus 20x. And that adds up to, or subtracts to, positive 8x, which is really close to what we want. We want a negative 8x, so that means that all I have to do is switch the signs here and make this one the positive 1, make this one the negative 1. And so if I redo my calculations again, I end up with negative 28x plus 20x, and that's an add up to negative 8x, which is what I want here. And that makes this set for the factors of A 4 and 4, right? And then the factors of C are going to become positive here and the negative here. So those will be my answer. And to put it all into one answer with the negative 1 on the outside, negative 1 times 4x plus 5 times 4x minus 7.